What's up, people? It's another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best music podcast, talking about everything brutal, new, death, hard, slam, grind, thrash, core, metal. I'm one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horskow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how is it going?
Great.
And joining us, once again, we have Jordan from ZoneZero, who's actually trying to compete with Adam for the most celebrity guest appearances. So, Jordan, thank you for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
We are glad to have you. So the topic for this week's episode is arguably the only new metal album ever recorded by a hardcore band, 2000's Slither by Earth Crisis. And right here, Tim, we would have the drop where it would just be Slither, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's start it off with, I'm the oldest one in the room. I remember when this came out. I remember being mortified. And this is 2000, right? This is all Breed the Killers, is right before it. Earth Crisis sides of Roadrunner. This is Earth Crisis getting big. This is hardcore getting noticed. Roadrunner is a huge label. And I picked this up and I went, what is this?
No, you got it mixed up. This was Back to Victory.
This was Victory.
Was this Back to Victory?
Yeah.
You're right. This was the first album back with them.
Which is crazy because I think if this had made it onto Roadrunner, this could have been huge. Like this could have been like humongous.
So, well, let's talk about that real quick. There was an interview that I think Scott Krause did. I think it was with what's his name, Meep, Ryan Rainbow, where he talked about how this is probably the album Roadrunner wanted them to make. Breed the Killers is the album they should have done in their return back to Victory.
Yes.
But I mean, I'll go first. I really enjoyed this album. Like, not guilty pleasure enjoy. There are some legit singable moments on this album, which again, for Earth Crisis, first time I saw them was touring up Gomorrah's Season Ends. Like, that's no way near anything this is. But hot damn, man, I actually kind of get into it. Jordan, you're the youngest of the batch. What do you think?
I don't remember. I don't even remember, like, recall the first time I heard this. I remember like being younger and knowing who Earth Crisis was. And then I think I like flip-flopped between like this record, like just hearing songs from this record and then like all their hardcore stuff. So I was like, I don't even know what this band actually sounds like. And then years later, I was like, I went back and revisited like Gomorrah Season Ends and Destroy the Machine, stuff like that. And was like, oh, this is how this band should sound. And then everyone like just shit on Slither, but it's a really, really good record. I mean, like as someone who enjoys both, like I love like New York hardcore and like all these different hardcore bands and stuff. And then huge new metal geek. So like these just go hand in hand. Like, why can't we all get along? This is a great record. You
bring up a good point, Jordan. I couldn't imagine what it was like to have this album be your first exposure to Earth Crisis.
Yeah. It's
how jarring that must be. Because then you go back into the back catalog and you come across Firestorm and you're like, what is this?
And then you hear the dun, 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 and you're like, oh fuck, I'm in danger.
Right.
Tim, you were a contemporary. What did you think? Back in the day, not now, back in the day.
This is one that throws you for a loop, man, because it's like, I think Breed the Killers is their best record. I think that record has so many riffs on it. Like, there are so many good riffs on that record.
Good opinion.
So I always love that record. And then this came out, and I was like, that's weird, but okay. So, but at first, I was like, this is trash. Like, can't do it. Because back then, it's like, I'm still listening to new metal, but I'm like, I'm in the fucking death metal, black metal stage at this point. And then this comes out. I'm like, yeah, maybe one day. And then when we talked about doing this, I gave it another spin and I was like, this is better than I thought it was, but it's still bad.
I think it is this album. If we're going to make the comparison, it's probably like Judas Priest's Turbo or the first album with Eddie from Suicide Silence, where the fans are going to shit all over it at the time. And then as history is going to progress, someday people are going to come back and clamor for a Slither reunion set. Someday.
Well,
yeah,
I think right now
it's pay for that whole thing.
Hey, I want to book you guys, but you can only play Slither. Like, I wonder how that conversation with Carl would go over. Like, I really do.
I had Scott on Ill Street, and we talked about this record a little bit. I just forget what we talked about. I should pull that out of my hard drive and just get that part off of there and fucking I'll put it on like a bonus or something.
Yeah, I mean, so let's go into it. So I remember buying it, seeing, okay, it's Earth Crisis. And to your point, Jordan, back on Victory. Oh, great. You open it up. They're all in pleather coats. And that should have been the first sign that this was going to sound different, because they are the baggy camo cargo basketball jersey bandana band, right? And who they were the progenitors of that look, right? And you know what? Arguably, they probably stole it from All Out War, but they're all from that weird part of, the Hudson Valley, Syracuse, Erie, PA. That's all a very, very odd part of the country. But
Cabal 315, all that.
Yes, right. And you open it up and you're like, wait a minute, why is Carl wearing a pleather jacket? Like, what's going on here, man? And then you listen, right? So they start with the intro, Lost to Humanity, right? And then they go into Slither. And the guitar makes sense. Him saying this name of the song makes sense. It goes into the riff. And then they go into that almost bouncy type of verse. Okay, I'm still with you. And then it hits the chorus. And he belts out clean vocals. And that was the time where I was like, what the shit? Like, did I buy the wrong CD? Like, I'm looking around like, whoa, what was this? Right? What was this? So, Jordan, when you heard it, this is your entry into Earth Crisis. You were probably like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Like, considering the time, the what was going on in music at the time, I can see you being like, oh, okay, this is bad.
Yeah, it was like the first stuff I ever heard was from like Breed the Killers. And one of the first songs I heard was, I forget which song it is, but it's got Rob Flynn on it. And
is that Ultra Dominance, Tim? I think or something
yeah.
like that. All Against
Ultra
One,
Militants.
something like that. Ultra Militants, yeah.
Because and it's funny, I have a hoodie. I have an Earth Crisis hoodie somewhere. Camo Earth Crisis on the back. It says Ultra Militants with 3 X's. It's the hardest shit I think I own. But it's super sick. But no, like it was the first song I heard, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I don't really know how to describe this, because it was like that weird, like late 90s kind of new metal, or not new metal, but like hardcore, where it was starting to blur the lines a little bit. There was some stuff where you're kind of hearing some, like you were hearing a few riffs in that, and you're like, I can see where those two kind of come together. And then when I fully I listened to that record a bunch, and then kind of went backwards a little bit, and then because I'd heard like Firestorm like once before that, and then I went into Slither and was like, oh, this is quite a like heel turn they're doing. That's crazy. Like I've never heard this before. Or like I didn't know if this band actually sounded like that. And so, but it was still a good record. Like I'm just glad I didn't end up just like hating it all together. I was like, I can appreciate both sides of that band. Like they're one of my favorite bands of all time, and I can appreciate that existing as its own little unit versus their entire discography being what it is. It's all good. It's all great. So
it was a point in time. And to you're talking about how, well, look at all the other stuff that was out at that time. This is around the same time as the Burning Red, right? So this is Machine Head dipping into new metal.
And that's what I was going to bring up that next. There's I know it's on the back of a shirt I used to have, but I don't know if it's in the booklet anywhere. But like watching like the Dynamo 95 Machine Head, where it's like, braids and the Reservoir Dogs shirt and the Chromax crew neck and everything. And then you open up the booklet to like with the Burning Red, and they're all in like trip pants, and
he's got spiked hair. Yes,
he's got spiked hair, and then Dave McClain's got like the leopard print hair going on, and they're all like ribbity rap, rap, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, how did you go from Davidian to that? But then it's still good. And I argue, I don't know if you guys know my friend Tyler Green. I feel like you guys might know him. He's a big like old merch head guy, but he's like my age, but loves the shit.
Yeah, I know Tyler. Yep.
Yeah, you know Tyler. And so that's like his favorite Machine Head record. And I'm like, buddy, and I try to like talk him down from that all the time. I'm just like, I understand why you love it, but 10-Ton Hammer exists, and like
Bay of Pigs,
sorry, all this shit like exists, but no, like same thing going on with like Machine Head. Like they were like hard in the beginning and then did that. But that's what I always wanted to know too, is like one of my notes is like, how do you think Victory felt about this record? Did they say like, hey, this is booming, maybe do this? Or do you think they turned it in and whatever his name for Victory was like, what the fuck is this?
Well, what's different? Well, what's weird to me is how Steve Evans did the record too. So it's like, he did a lot of Victory stuff. So then he goes and does this record. I mean, how much is it is him?
You think he was just sitting there behind the board while Carl is in the booth, clean singing, and he's just sitting there blinking like a hostage video?
Myself. You are monster. And Steve's just like,
Like he's just sitting there blinking, like blink
Good
twice if
take.
you're being a hostage. Yeah, good take, right? Good take.
Good take, buddy.
The comparison to Machine Head is interesting because if you look at these two bands' trajectories after that, right? Machine Head leads even further into new metal, and they make.
Oh yeah.
Didn't we have Wojo on for Supercharger? Was that
Mhm.
Supercharger we had on Chris Wojnicki? They leaned into it. Earth Crisis literally breaks up, right? They do the covers album, they do the greatest hits album, they disappear for a bit.
What is it? Hellfest 01 is like their last
Mhm.
that, which legendary. That
Yep.
oh man.
They
good.
did Slither in 2000. They do Last of the Sane in 2001.
Mhm.
And then they disappear until 2009.
Yeah.
And then they show back up at To the Death, which is actually a pretty. We could actually do a deep dive on their late catalog. It's pretty damn good.
Holds up. Still very good. Still,
When did they do the live record?
Let's see.
2000, I think, wasn't it? That was like close to 2000, 2001. There's like a live record.
So there was the California Takeover was 96. The Oath That Keeps Me Free was 98. That's the one I think you're thinking of, Tim.
Yeah.
And then they did Forever True, which is the compilation live and B-sides and shit. And that was in 2000.
Okay.
It's kind of wild. So let's go in. So, I
didn't mean to cut you off, Jordan. My bad.
Oh, you're good.
We talk about the title track, aside from me like derisively making fun of the chorus, which I will sing perfectly, right? It's not that bad.
Oh no, it's an earworm.
That was, you said earworm. My note here is this is the most singable, and I had singable in quotes, Earth Crisis album. There's enough parts on each song where it's clean vocals, or it's an attempt at making a quasi friendlier track that it works. The
highlights of this record, I don't care what anyone says, are the guitars.
Oh,
There's a lot of super catchy licks in this, man.
Yes.
There's a lot of them chords, and I'm the worst at like saying what a chord is, but it's Jordan will know what I'm talking about. It's like the power chord, but you skip one and you mute the one in between. You know what I'm talking about?
Octaves, yeah.
There's a lot of them like super like octavey chords that just sound really fucking like sweet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Especially in the chorus of Slither, you get that like I fucking love that shit.
So let me ask you, Tim, out of all this album, which is the song that you thought was the best? I know you're not a big fan, but what's the song you thought was the best?
Oh, I fucking love Behind the Wire. That's a great track.
That's I put in the I made like a favorite track and a least favorite track, and my favorite track on this was Behind the Wire.
Great song.
So good.
For me, it was I think it was Aggress. It was either Aggress or Arc of Descent.
Yeah, Grass is my second favorite.
Those are both awesome. Jordan, what did you have as your least favorite track on the album?
My note says none. This record beats ass.
How about you, Tim?
I hate Nemesis. I can't stand that Monsters in the World shit. Oh God, I hate it.
See that I don't like the song, and only because that was the one that they made a video for. That was easily the most. I don't want to say publicly accessible, but easily the most accessible by people who are not into our extreme type of music, right? Like he has a singing chorus. It's a slower pace. It's not so aggressively in your face. But yeah, Carl singing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to talk shit because, like I said before, I respect people that go out and do music, but like singing's not his thing.
No. You know what? I did make a couple of notes here. When he does the rap cadence, it works.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it works in the song Provoke. It works in where is the other song I have here? Is it Biomachines? I think I have a note here where that cadence, he can actually do it. It's kind of amusing to say that, but Carl can pull it off.
Because he never does it too like clean. He's still got kind of like a rasp and a grit behind it. Same thing that like Rob, like another comparison Machine Head, like Rob Flynn does. He always said he does like melodic barking is always what he called his like vocals and stuff. But like that's just kind of like what Carl does. Like there's a little bit of like the rappiness in there, but he's still got this like grit to voice where it's just like, but it's not corny, it's not cheesy at all. It sounds like he's like doing it with conviction.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I remember
the same for like when Bannon on Jane Doe, like the vocals are so incomprehensible, but like you love them.
Oh yeah. You read his lyrics and you're like, yeah, there's no way he had those at the time, right?
Oh,
it's like the guy from the Red Chord. in an old interview, which by the way, anybody who's listening, dig up old Red Chord interviews on YouTube. Those guys are fucking hysterical. When they did
on Earth.
what was the tour they were on, Jordan, where they were backstage and they were ripping on everybody walking by, and the guy from Javier from Animals as Leaders comes by and he starts picking on them.
Was it what's the big metal tour that always comes? It's like always the big death metal tours that come through.
And no, it's the other
Summer
one.
Slaughter?
Summer Slaughter, that's it.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
But Guy talked about when the Red Chord was early on and they were touring and he was out of shape. He couldn't keep up. He said he would literally just go into the microphone because nobody would tell the difference anyway. I listened to an interview once, something, and somebody said, imagine being a young Carl from Earth Crisis at a family reunion. And your like aunt comes up and says, hey, Jordan, you're in a band. Jordan, this Carl goes, yeah, I'm in a band. And what do you do? Oh, I sing. Oh, really? Yeah. What do you sing? Well, it's kind of an aggressive music. Really? Well, what's it sound like? And then he just turns and goes, oh, just like, imagine doing that at like a family reunion, how mortified the rest of the family would be, right? Does he do the Slither vocals? Who knows? I will.
The part about seeing when like TikTok deathcore vocalists do that shit in public. I just want to break my phone in half. Like I hate to be a hater, but get that away from me.
Yeah.
I hate that so much. Just
you know what I can't stand? I can't stand the dudes that like have to do a bit for every like thing, like, oh, deathcore in my car, and they're like doing this shit. Oh god, I hate that shit too. It's so annoying.
I understand the meme ability of a culture helps the culture procreate, but at the same time, it's like, guys, realize you're embarrassing yourselves, right?
You realize that you're grown ass people, right?
Yes, yeah. yes. I will say this: the guitars do stand out. I think that so like in songs like Aggress, in songs like even Mechanism. Mechanism was probably, I said, I have note here, it's the closest to old school Earth Crisis on the album. The clean chorus offset by what the palm muted chords, the juns, for lack of a better term, it works in a lot of these songs. But I will say this: the second half is the closest to old school Earth Crisis, but it tapers off real quickly. I think if they had cut it, Tim and I, Jordan, we talk all the time about tracking, and as a recording artist, right? Your track listing, your sequencing is really important because you can ruin an album by having songs in the wrong order.
Oh yeah.
I think if they cut this at Behind the Wire, it's a banger. It's like a straight banger.
Like Last Track being behind
Last Track.
Like, oof, good solid ending there. That'd be so good.
But Mass Arrest is okay, but from there it literally goes off a cliff.
And that last track is pretty cool. Like sonically, it starts out with like that real kind of like distorted drum part and everything. But it's like, I wouldn't miss it.
Right.
If they had done like something later on where they were like, oh, these were 2 tracks that got left off of Slither, I'd be like, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you would get it too. You'd go, I get why you left that off. It's cool, but I get why you left it off. Yeah.
Same thing in my notes. 3 tracks too long. That's exactly what I wrote.
Yeah.
Love it.
But I think the like I said before, the one good thing about this record is they got the tones perfectly on this. The tones are perfect.
Yes.
The bass tone is crushing. Love the bass tone. I
think he is one of those sneaky good, underappreciated bassists. Bulldog. He is solid on every single thing that they've recorded, and live. Right at this point, he's my age. He's older than me, and I'm 45. He's still jumping around with the fucking bandana on, doing the karate kicks. Like, God bless him.
Well, I mean, when you're in shape and straight edge, it's easy.
Yeah, I guess if you don't drink and eat, only are vegan, I guess it's, I don't know, life's got to be different. Should probably try that. But I will say there, so the things that they do right, I would argue that there are very few hardcore bands that can write the intro section of a song as well as Earth Crisis.
Oh yeah.
The opening, say 12 bars of almost every Earth Crisis song is a fucking monster. And they, for whatever reason, they have that down pat.
Like the discipline.
Yes.
Like, yes. So you hear the
right.
Bands, you're just like, oh shit, like, oh god, here it comes.
Would you say, Jordan, that when you think of, we can make this argument in the aggregate when we talk about the entire album of Destroy the Machines, right? Think of Firestorm wasn't on that, was it? No, that was on the
like a
EP.
pre like
Um,
thing, yeah.
But even think of what is it? Deliverance, where it's like if that doesn't make you want to get up and just throw something, I don't know what's wrong with you. But they have that nailed, and they carried it through the new metal phase.
Yeah. It's so good. This band can just do no wrong. And that's one of my notes. I can't think of any other bands that are like this, but I said straight edge new metal speaks to me.
That's a genre you could probably corner.
Jordan. And it's funny. ZoneZero is 3/5 straight edge. It's me, Mike, and Knox, and then the other two are just. It was so funny when we were a little tangent about the studio here. So we were there recording, and so half of the studio it's split up between Will Putney, Matt, Google him, our guy, and then Randy LaBeouf. And so Randy he has the downstairs, and so he's mixing records. He also he might hear this. He mixes, and he knows this. He mixes like out loud and louder than holy hell. Like we were upstairs.
You mean he doesn't have headphones? He has it coming through speakers.
Yeah, and we could feel it from the basement when we were like upstairs in the kitchen. And so anytime we couldn't find Rob and Johnny, they were downstairs with Randy, just smoking, just getting toasted. And it was just the funniest shit. So like we couldn't find them anywhere. I'm just like, oh, I know where they are, downstairs. And so it's just so funny
out loud. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would think you got to have a really fine-tuned ear for that. I would think.
And I mean, like his records all sound great. So I mean, he can't.
True. Yeah.
But that was just funny bringing up the whole like I can't think of another like straight edge new metal band. But I'm like, well, I'm the closest thing, like, my band's the closest thing I can think of to being like a straight edge new metal band.
So both the guitarists are the ones that aren't straight edge.
That aren't, yeah.
That's funny.
The riff guys are the ones that aren't, which is fair because, like, I don't know, a lot of good straight edge riffs, but like we it's funny, a lot of the like Mike and Knox listen to a bunch of like stoner metal and doom metal, and it's so funny how the straight edge guys, and they wanted to start a 2-piece like straight edge stoner band, and so I think that'd be really funny. Did you see the bit with Mike in our episode? Yeah.
Oh, Josh was killing us. He was killing us.
Yeah. And I want to come on record and say that Adam is wrong. That Blood Incantation record is amazing.
Yep. I was trying to tell them that you liked it and they weren't listening.
Thank you. I if you saw the abuse I took in the chat thread because of that, it was something else. But both of you mentioned Behind the Wire. The other thing people don't think about with this album is Behind the Wire and Killing Brain Cells are live staples. Mm-hmm. They play those songs all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's one thing to say, well, the album's kind of bad. And they're also buried in the B-side.
Oh, right? Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
They're right at the end, like almost at the end of that record.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the last really, really good song, and then it kind of tapers from there. But yeah, all in all, I mean, Tim, you didn't by chance see them tour off this, did you?
I was literally just going to ask you who they were touring with because I did see them around this time. But while you're looking that up, dude, the one thing we forgot to talk about is the album cover is great, I think, because you know who
is it? Dave McKean.
McKean,
yep.
Yeah. It's like instantly recognizable. Like his art style is just, as soon as I saw that, I was just kind of like, that reminds me of like Stabbing Westward or something. And then I it's that guy. So
he did some Fear Factory and stuff.
He did some Fear Factory. I know he did the Cleansing by Suicide Silence.
Oh yeah,
that's something I didn't know. I looked it up too.
Really?
Every time I see like really, really good art, he did like Frontline Assembly too.
Yeah, Skinny Puppy. Yep.
Just like stuff like that. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like he was so good. And so I think when you have like, I don't know, a record like this deserved art like that.
Yeah, it does stand out
so well. Like I couldn't imagine doing something like, although their other album covers are really cool, this one just like if I looked at that, if I hadn't heard this record and looked at that album cover, I probably could have told you what this record sounded like. It just looks sonically like this record.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm big into that too. If I see an album cover that looks great, I'm like, this band's probably good, because when a band puts money into an album cover, it's usually because the record speaks for itself as well. So
on wildly off topic, I just found a Earth Crisis Slither tour shirt on eBay for $160.
Yeah.
That is
crazy.
That is kind of fucking insane. But I'm looking here to find who they toured with.
I was wondering too. I didn't know if they did anything relative to like this being a new metal record, did they tour with new metal bands or did they just stick with playing with hardcore bands?
Good question.
Yeah, I always wondered that if it was like a hybrid of things, because like I always wondered it might have been like a Korn situation. When Korn came out, they didn't know who to send them on tour with. They were like, go play with Life of Agony, go play with Fear Factory, go play with whoever.
Mhm.
Because it was so new, they couldn't be like, go play with another new metal band because they were like, what's that?
Yeah.
And so like, go play with Primus, go do this and this and that. It was like they didn't know who to put them with. So like I was wondering the same thing if they did jump on some of those, you know, new metal tours and do whatever, or did they stick with playing hardcore stuff, which would be really funny.
I'm looking at it, I can't find anything.
I know
it was so hard to find stuff for this.
New metal and hardcore crossover. Is it the dude from Marauder being the first singer for Il Nino? That's the yeah. There's one video I've seen too. You guys see that Liberated Tape Archive guy on YouTube?
Oh yes, of course,
I haven't posted in like a year and a half, and I'm a little bummed out. But he has a video of that. It's Il Nino's like first set from like 1998. And is it Jorge? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. He's singing for them, and I was just like, what the fuck? Same thing. I'll also say this. I'll go on record and say this. E-Town Concrete is a new metal band, and anyone can fight me on this.
That's a hot take. Yo,
calm down, Holiday.
Oh, we just got a page from Holiday Kirk. He's coming in. He's unhappy with.
Let's talk about this. You think Time to Shine is a new metal record?
Hey man, Slither is an Earth Crisis record that exists. So Time to Shine can certainly be a new metal record.
I'm offended at that one. That's like one of my favorite records of all time. There's no way that's a new metal record.
One. What's the other one? Is it the Renaissance?
Oh, the Renaissance. I see why people say that, but
all right, so I gotta stop looking for this. So I won't say they are a new metal band, but I will say they are adjacent enough that I can see the lumping. I would lump them in more with a new wave of American heavy metal, because I remember seeing them with bands like Candiria and God Forbid and First Run Kill Switch with Jesse behind the helm. So I can see it. I can see where you would lump them in, because they do have that rap metal sound, which was Head PE. It was, you know, much like, but I also, now I'm arguing myself here, but also much like Rage Against the Machine is new metal adjacent. I would say E-Town is in the same area, I think.
What's that Candiria song? Is it 3 Times Again? Is just like hard as fuck. Like it's just so heavy. And like, I think it's what record is it? I gotta look it up now. Oh, Process of Self-Development. That's a good one.
All right, guys. Since Jay is the worst Googler of all time,
I found it.
Second to find this.
Where'd you find it, Tim? Come on.
2000 Slither tour. It was Earth Crisis, Not Waving but Drowning, Drowning Man, Glassjaw.
And I found a second leg of that tour was the second leg was Earth Crisis, co-headlining with Glassjaw, Relative Ash opening.
Nice.
There's your new metal.
There's your new metal. Love it.
That is really kind of wild. Holy shit.
Dude, Drowning Man is underappreciated. And they're just, in my opinion, the continuation kind of like Dead Guy a little bit.
That's fair.
Relatively. But like, I don't know. That band was just, it's still the whole like crazy spastic, blah, blah, blah. You know, we're here. We're going to kill you. Our name is 2 words put together. Shit like that. But that's crazy. That's wild. Like, seeing all those bands on the same bill would be nuts. That's crazy.
Yeah, I can't.
Who was the first band on that, Tim?
Not Waving but Drowning.
It was Not Waving, Drowning Man, and who else? Glassjaw.
Glassjaw.
Oh, that's such a good tour.
That is kind of wild. And then the second leg was Glassjaw and Relative Ash, right? Which is, I'm waiting for Drowning Man. Are they playing the Decibel Metal and Beer?
Yes,
they are.
Mm-hmm.
You coming out for that,
right.
Jordan?
Yeah.
You coming out?
Maybe. I don't know. When is that?
April. I think it's tax weekend. Is it the 15th, 16th? I think something like that.
May have to do that.
What's his name from Drowning Man? It's fucking hilarious too. The singer
Simon. Yeah,
Simon is fucking great.
Great band. I love that.
I had him on Illustrate too. That's a great fucking episode.
I have that. I have a CD copy of that. Drowning Man Still Loves You.
I love it.
Probably one of my favorite EPs ever.
Yeah, it's so good.
So while we're talking about Drowning Man getting away from Earth Crisis, but they are contemporaries, I'm waiting for, since they have done a reunion show lately, I'm waiting for Botch to play some sort of festival. I really thought they were going to be that TBA on the Decibel Metal and Beer Festival. It turned out to be Gorguts.
What?
No,
Oh,
not a fan.
man.
Not a fan.
Man.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Earth Crisis toured with Misfits on the other tour, the Breed the Killers tour.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is wild. That is wild. So let's go back in about Earth Crisis. So I mean, there's some songs that are close to old school Earth Crisis. I think we all can agree that the clean vocals, while kind of jarring in and of themselves, there are sections where it works. The guitar work is obviously brilliant. We already talked about Bulldog and his bass stuff. So let me ask a question here. If we change this album, what we do? So we all agree that we sort in the last 3 songs.
Mhm.
Would Tim? I'm gonna start with you. Would you change the track listing at all? Would you
No.
make any other changes? You would keep
No.
everything as is?
Yeah, I think
I would have Behind the Wire as your leadoff single though.
there.
Okay.
I think that song is one of their best songs they've ever written. And for this record, for it to be pushed so far into the track listing, I think that was a disservice for them. That's a great song.
I can see that. So let me ask you: do you think if you keep the last 3 songs, you lop the last 3 songs? Is Nemesis too high in the album?
Nemesis,
Tracking?
close. My opinion,
Yeah.
Nemesis should close the record. It's like
Absolutely.
the longest song I think on the record, and so I think just
That would
having
work.
that little one would be kind of cool to have that. I think the way that it should go is like, because Nemesis is cool. I think the singles order should have been like, Behind the Wire should have been like the bigger introduction, because it's still super like heavy and bouncy and hard and everything, but that'd have been a more like, approachable shift from past Earth Crisis into current Earth Crisis. Because Slither's cool, but that is such a change that probably put a lot of people off like right away. So it could have been like, Behind the Wire, here's the video, new record coming out this time. And then when the record drops, it's like, cool, now you drop Slither as a single. And now people are like, okay, cool, this is cool. Wasn't expecting this. This is, so I feel like that it should be like Behind the Wire, Slither, and then like, I think the other video they have is like Killing Brain Cells.
Yeah.
Or Nemesis, either one. But yeah, Nemesis has like, that's got the biggest chorus for me. I think that's the one that I think sticks in my head other than Slither is Nemesis's chorus. So, but I think that one could easily end it.
Are you saying, Jordan, or you didn't think this through, but I'm asking, are you saying that if you're a band and you're going to put out something where you're going to kind of get a little weird, right, or get away from what your fans are expecting, your first single should typically be something close enough to your old catalog to have the fans say, oh, okay, this is.
Yeah, so it's not a complete.
Oh, assuages. Okay.
It's just like, it's like, I still got the hard riff, but like that part was a little strange, but the rest of it was the Earth Crisis I know and love. And so, when you get used to the strange of the new song and everything, then you push them even deeper into the difference. And then, that way they want more of it with the first one, and then you give it to them. And then, so.
I would agree. Because another example that jumps out in my head, and this is probably a terrible example, but the Black Album.
Oh yeah.
I think they should have led off with Through the Never, because that's probably the most aggressive song on that album.
And I think they talked about that. There's in the documentary, in the Year and a Half in Life Metallica documentary, it's Bob Rock, James, and Lars are like at lunch or something, and Bob Rock says that should have been the first song on the record, and should have been like the lead off single instead of Sandman. Because it's just that riff, it's still classic Metallica, and then but still fast and everything, and then then they should have done everything else. But yeah, I think that's why people hate that record and that song so much, is because it was such a weird change from on the last record. And so
Through the Never, the verse fucking riff, oh my god, it's so fucking good.
Almost, I mean, I could also make the argument that if you really wanted to freak out your fans, Pantera with Far Beyond Driven should have led off with Slaughtered, which is an offensively heavy song buried on the B-side, right? You could have led off with that, or Use My Third Arm, and everybody would have been like, yo, what is this? What is this? And I would be remiss if I don't throw him under the bus at least once this episode. I'm going to stick with my boy Austin and say Adam Easterling is wrong. They should have led off with Fast Asleep from the newest Orthodox album. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That song.
Throw that out there. it fucking rips. And I was so mad they didn't play it live. And I was like, and there was an interesting interplay in the band when we had them on where they were talking about, oh, we weren't sure we were going to include that. But I'm like, yo, this is the best song on the album. I bust Adam Stones about it mercilessly.
I can't wait for them to put out the B-sides. I think they have like 2 or 3 of them. But when we were on our little weekend run in April before the record came out, we were just talking about stuff, and Mike was like, oh, let me play you guys the record while we're in the van, and heard the whole thing. And I was like, oh, what's this one called? And he goes, oh, it's called Brown Table right now, because we don't know what to call it. This is the B-side right now. And I think it's like 2 or 3 of the B-side songs, but they're awesome. That whole record was so fucking good.
Yep. Yeah, I told Adam the same shit.
Don't let
like
Mike
them B-sides should have been on the record. They're just as good.
Don't let Mike know I'm being nice to him.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. If I like, what new metal band should I check out Slither? If I'm into what new metal band would you say, hey, you like that?
Nothing Face.
Okay. I can see that.
Violence by Nothing Face. Go by Slither.
Which, by the way, as an aside, has sneakily become one of the new metal bands I listen to most. And I'd never heard that album until we did that episode.
Wow.
And I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Still a staple.
I'm going to go with Digimortal.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Not that it hadn't. I mean, Digimortal has, the syncopated stuff in it still, but I think that record is close to what they were trying to do on this record. You know what I mean? It's the same.
Well, it's
the same boundaries that are broken,
It was Roadrunner telling us, "Well, write us a new metal album." So let me flip the question on the other way. Say somebody is not necessarily a big new metal fan, but they came across Slither via their hardcore journey and really enjoyed it. What would you say? Hey, check out X new metal album. What's the album that they should be listening to?
That's a good one.
I mean, I think you were onto something, Jordan, when you said Nothing Face, because it would definitely be one of the later stage new metal heavy things. I mean, is it like,
if it's any decade of new metal, like if it was somebody just getting into that stuff, I would say something like maybe like the Down the Sun self-titled.
I was thinking that maybe American Head Charge.
American Head Charge is good. Maybe the Strictly Diesel would be a good one. That'd be a really good one. That one's I'm trying to think of ones that are more like raw and that aren't so polished. Like they're
Dry Kill Logic.
Dry Kill Logic.
Yeah.
Dude, Rot. Me and Johnny, our guitar player, were talking about that song in the studio. And when it hits that breakdown, that's a moshable part. Like that's another like weird kind of crop. That band had some, when it hits the hard. And I was, man, it's so good. But yeah, I think bands that are leaning more toward the aggressive side, more polished one, I guess. The Impossibility of Reason has some really, really heavy, just fucking disgusting parts on it. So good. But like I think it's the end of like Eyes of a Criminal. That riff is just so good. But yeah, just any unpolished, really super heavy new metal record, I would just like give to these, hardcore kids.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chimera, if you give them the first full length, not the first album, I think that's a good call right there too, because that record has a lot of moshy parts on it too, and it's pretty raw, and it's
just listen to Severed, and then you can turn it up if you want, but just listen to Severed.
Great fucking record.
Yeah.
They just reissued that, and they remixed 3 songs.
It's a whole different record, dude.
It's so good.
Is it?
Dude, it sounds so fucking good.
Is it? I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, what were the songs? It was Severed, one of them?
They remixed Severed, Split, and Painting the White to Gray.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And dude, hearing Severed with like really punchy drums, and there's like, because there were like sub drops that Spikuza would put in, like, and there was like cool parts where I'm just like, whoa, proto bass drops in metal before that became a huge thing. But they're just putting them like when it hits the real slow parts of the Severed, you can feel it just like the boom in your car or whatever. And they knew how to do it without making it sound too polished. It just sounds so much thicker and better, and it hits so good.
Yeah, dude. Underappreciated song on that record is Sphere.
Oh yeah, very good.
I I remember when I first picked up that album, I always thought it was too long because it's a long album, right? It's not even questionable. It's not even arguable. It's a long album. But when we did that deep dive, I really came to appreciate there are some real gems and late in that second half where you can see where they were going to go with the next album.
Another funny kind of is kind of all still relates to Earth Crisis too. Because I notice every time I come on here, we end up just going off on a different thing. But another thing is how I was talking about this with the guys in the studio too, how different like elements of them all being involved in like Cleveland hardcore went on to them being in like Chimera and doing like butt rock radio metal tours.
Yeah.
Like their guitar player Matt DeVries was in this band called Ascension, and they were like a weird like mid-90s like metalcore band that played with like Disembodied a lot, and they were all like, I think one of them was in Integrity for a minute at one point, and like
he was in
Ringworm. I thought everybody from Cleveland has played in either Integrity or Ringworm at a given time. That was
the guy who sings like is the clean vocalist for Mushroomhead right now. Played bass for Integrity.
I'm convinced everybody has been in either Integrity or Ringworm, or you're right, Mushroomhead at a certain point. At a certain point, they've come through.
Talk about a hardcore band making a new metal record, Integrity 2000.
Well, that's J-Man from Mushroomhead.
Ooh.
Pretty much, yeah, it's like 3 people from Mushroomhead plus Dwid making a record.
I'd love that.
I love it.
We should deep dive on that one.
I love that record, man.
That would be an interesting conversation.
I'll come on and talk about that. That's I'll say it. I think maybe not be my favorite Integrity record, but it's like tied with like my favorite is Seasons and the Size of Days. And so that one is like right second with that one. I think that record's incredible. It's so good. It's just so weird and heavy and just disturbing. Like he puts a lot of weird of like, I know he's a big noise guy, and so he puts a lot of stuff into it. So
yeah, we're definitely going to deep dive on that one because that is an odd, again, another outlier album in someone's oeuvre that you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I did want to ask both of you because I think you would know, and this is wildly off topic, but speaking of remasters, I never listened to the Disembodied remasters.
Insanely good.
Yeah.
Like, do they take that album and take it and push it up a whole nother level? Because I mean,
it sounds so good.
Okay.
It's very. It just I was always hoping that those records would be picked up by someone and like remastered or remixed or whatever. And I'm so glad it was someone like Will Putney, because his mix is always just, and everything that comes out of like Graphic Nature always just hits so hard. And so when those came out and it was like remastered by, it was like announced, and it was just like, I don't think they had put any songs off of it or anything yet, but they were just like, okay, remaster, reissue coming soon, remastered by Will Putney. I was just like, oh, here we go. Like, let's go. And just hearing that first, I can never pronounce that first record's name.
Diablerie. Yeah.
That one, just hearing that one, and like, cause like the first one is just so raw and good, and just, it's fine as it is, but just hearing it in that full spectrum, just like these pounding, just you can hear like the low end out of these drums, and the guitars are crispy, and you can hear the vocals super well. It just makes it just elevated. So good.
I got to check that out. My favorite moment of when we got to talk to Will was we asked him, we said, you did the first Vane record, and the new Vane record is just about to come out. And the part of the things that made that first Vane record so great is it's so aggressively imposing. I know you really can't talk about it, but what do you think about the new one? And he waits a second and he goes, it's absolutely terrifying. And I was like, sold, pre-order it.
And it was, and it's so good. It's once again still incredible.
One of those bands. I'm waiting for. Well, I'll save it for the next episode. All right. So, final thoughts, gents, before we take this one home.
Out of 10, let's do it.
I got to give this. I'd give it like a 9.5. Honestly, I got to go that high with it. I think it's so good, and I think the only things that I have a problem with are what we said, like knocking those first 3 off, or not the first 3, the last 3 off of the record, and just maybe messing with the track listing just a little bit. But they couldn't do, like, they didn't just fuck this up. They were so good with it. Like, it's proof that this band is so good that they can take one genre, like they can go from being one genre and then just completely flip it and do this and not mess it up and not be horrible at it. They put out a really, really good record, and I don't see a whole lot of negative talk about this. Anyone who does, like, I'm just like, I don't care who you like. Who are you? Like, I don't care. I don't need to listen to you. But it gets a lot of defense too. So I like when people jump to this record's defense. I think it's so good. So 9.5 for this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 2000J would say it's a 2. 2000J because I was expecting Breed the Killers, that sort of thing. But mature J, this is a solid 8 as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I think you dropped the last 3 songs, maybe change a little bit of the track listing, move like we talked about, move behind the wire up. It becomes a 10. But I think looking at it now with fresh eyes, knowing what I know, seeing what they've done, seeing everything that happened around them, knowing the story, this is a well done record. It was too much too fast for the fans. And that's.
Yeah, they didn't ease into it well enough to where they could have appreciated it. They did it good, but they didn't. They went straight from being
They went straight from And Justice for All to Load.
Yeah, that's a good. They didn't have the album in between where it was a little bit of both. Maybe songs had clean singing here and there, but not a lot. They went straight for it. I also think my only other gripe is I love Carl's singing on this record, but if he had done a little more shit, like maybe a little bit of more of like a Life of Agony style clean vocal, that would have probably set this record off. Like that would have just
okay.
It.
What do you think, Tim?
A little more. Yeah,
I'm gonna do it. You said 2000, Tim. It's a 2. 2023, Tim. It's a 6 for me.
Okay.
Okay.
It's better than average.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just I don't really appreciate the clean singing. I love clean singing stuff, but yeah, I don't really think it. I don't think it suited him well. And even when they play it live, he does not try that shit. So,
but I would love to see it though. Like I would love to see a Slither reunion. Love to see it. Love to see it. All right. So we want to thank Jordan for coming on again. We're doing a couple of episodes back to back. So we'll talk about Jordan's experience in the studio. What's coming up next for ZoneZero, Ritual Eulogy. He's got a synth pop album. He's got a noise project. He's got a bazillion different projects.
Country probably.
Yep. There's probably some.
Because I will do that.
Do it.
There's some again, there's the what were we just talking about? New metal, the new metal, straight edge new metal. So we want to thank Jordan for coming on. Thank all of you for tuning in, for watching, listening. NewBreed_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, because we love to see your responses, your YouTube comments. You YouTube commenters are savage, so please keep it up and keep it going. Pick on Tim about, being an Eagles fan and always being congested. You can pick on me about, my questionable facial hair. But once again, we want to thank all of you for tuning in. And until next time, this is New Breed saying peace.
Later.